Hello, I'm BX welcome back to the video. Today I want to talk about something kind of big a lot of you have been requesting that I explain, and it is to do with the fact that over the last couple of updates, we've gotten most of the features from Minecraft 1.9 and 1.10 on the PC, besides one massive one, which is the brand new combat from 1.9, the combat update. That's right, one of the biggest features from that update is just missing from the console version of it, and it's not missing in the way that they've explained that will be coming in this time or that time. It just wasn't in the update. They didn't even explain why. It just didn't come out, and a lot of people are really confused about that. So in today's video, I figured I would answer the question of exactly where the brand new combat went for console. So hopefully you do enjoy this video. Like it if you do like it, because it helps out the channel, and let's say you do like this sort of video. But with that said, let's get straight into explaining this, and let me just quickly clarify, although I'm mostly focusing on the console, this somewhat applies to the Pocket Edition, because there's a lot of overlap there. Just keep that in mind in case you're only a PE player, because I know some of you are out there, which is a bit. With that said though, let's get straight into actually talking about why I think the combat isn't on the console, and why that's kind of weird, because it is actually in the code. If you look into certain skin packs, there are certain, things that are coded to have each arm act differently, and apparently this code has a lot of similarities, according to the modders I've spoken to the dual wielding code from the PC, because each arm has to function individually from each other, which means a lot of the code for, dual wielding is already in the game. So, yeah, that's the first kind of point here, the fact that they put some amount of work, I don't know how much is in there, but at least some of it is already in the game, and that makes it a little bit easier to put dual wielding in if they wanted to do that, which is a little bit weird, especially given the second point here, which is that they added not only just, that weird background coding, but also lots of other features from the 1.9 combat update, which are balanced with dual wielding and with the brand new combat system in mind. So yeah, basically, the big part of, the brand new combat from the PC is the dual wielding, but that also came with, like, a hit delay, that also came with rebalancing the weapons, that also came with nerfing a bunch of stuff to make that other stuff fair. But the thing is, although they haven't, rebalanced the weapons, and although they haven't added dual wielding or the hit delay, they have added a few things, such as the hearts that came with a hit, such as, the nerf to the strength potions, so now strength potions suck, but there's no new combat going on with it, such as a nerf to sharpness, that came in the previous update, actually it was interesting, as well as a nerf to, the protection enchantments. So they nerfed a bunch of stuff, they changed a bunch of stuff in anticipation of the new combat, but then the new combat is just mysteriously not in there, which is a little bit weird, and that's just the kind of second point going on here. The third thing is that there's a lot of, like, different references in the game itself, which really strongly hint at dual wielding directly, such as the fact that you can find skeletons which are, aren't right-handed, but are left-handed instead, because it's kind of like that dual wielding thing. I believe you can mod arm stands, like you can on the PC, to have the two separate arms. The fact that there's so many weird things to do with dual wielding in the game without dual wielding itself is something that I just find really weird. However, Jeb, just a few days before this update came out, a lot of you might have missed it, I think it was in, like, some news video. Again, like, it wasn't too big for news, because the big news was, update's coming out pretty soon. Basically, Jeb actually referenced the fact that he was talking about the combat rebalancing, perhaps. He didn't want to ever remove it from the PC, because he felt it was a fundamental part of the game there, but he did reference how both the console and the Pocket Edition versions of the game hadn't added the new combat yet, which makes me think that because, the new combat is perhaps the most controversial feature the Minecraft PC has ever added, and Jeb sometimes regrets it. Again, he's been trying to work the system, make it better and better for people, but he sometimes says he regrets it, which makes me think that maybe, instead of just adding it to the console and then making it like the same kind of thing there, because around a quarter of people just have this hostile reaction to being told that they have to, like, delay their hits, change their combat, etc. So basically, when Jeb comes out and says that, oh yeah, the Pocket Edition and the console don't have it yet, and that's maybe why this feedback is important, it makes me think that maybe the PC kind of took on a feature, it can't remove the feature without just saying it's backtracked a whole bunch, but maybe this is like Jeb's plan to backtrack it on other platforms, because again, that's something he said, and although, Jeb doesn't have direct control over the console and the PC, in the PE, he does actually have a fair amount of control over both those platforms indirectly, and, it's the sort of thing where they could kind of talk it over that way. The next point to talk about here is the fact that this update was the shortest time between two updates, on the console ever, besides T1 and T3. There was just 2 months and, like, I think it was like 2 weeks between, one update and the other, and that, of course, means that, just by pure time, there was the least development time in this update, which means that if they wanted to just say, like, oh yeah, we're going to add the brand new dual wielding in this update, we're going to make sure it's everything in there, it could have been delayed to, like, January, let's say, and people would prefer to have a slightly smaller update in December than a bigger update in January, because obviously that's when more people are playing Minecraft on the console for a whole bunch of reasons. Same with the Pocket Edition, because they released that update around the same time, and that makes me think that maybe it's actually a combination of all of this stuff together. Maybe they put some of the preliminary steps into dual wielding, they really, because as soon as they started even referencing it, as soon as it was, like, mentioned by YouTubers like myself and others, as soon as it was even mentioned, there was a hostile reaction, and maybe they figured when you combine all these factors together, the fact that it's extra development time, maybe delaying it into January or so, when you add in the fact that, Jeb is kind of regressing adding on the PC, you add in the, giant, ridiculous reaction from certain places, the fact that they've just added combat to the console and they'd have to rebalance all that stuff, and all the other work that has to go alongside it, maybe they just figured, let's just put a pin in this, and maybe that's what the Pocket Edition team decided at the exact same time. Maybe they've decided for sure it's never coming. I don't think that's necessarily the right decision, but it's something they might have decided, or maybe they decided to delay it, kind of like they did with banners last year. If you don't know, TE31 was 1.8 from the PC, we were entirely caught up the PC, PC, minus one feature, the banners, or minus a few, but minus banners being the big one, and then banners came with what, like the third update this year. Maybe that's what they intend to do with new combat. Maybe it's the sort of thing where like they don't really know how to put it in there right now, so instead they've just kind of put a pin in it, and they're gonna wait, see over the next few months how people like the current system. If they hate it and think that, oh, this needs dual wielding, or maybe the opinion changes, maybe it'll go into the game. But I think the big reason for not putting new combat is because when you go out of your way to put a lot of work into a feature that isn't necessarily liked by even the other Mojang edition, Mojang employees, that isn't necessarily even liked by the community, and that would have taken more time to develop, you can kind of see the argument as to why you probably just shouldn't. And maybe that, to me, that's the big answer to why this isn't in there. I don't know for sure what the decision was and who it was made by, or for what reason, but I can just say that, like, I really doubt it was the sort of thing where someone at 4J was just like, oh, it was my job to add new combat, I forgot, my bad. A lot of people like to believe that, everything's so simple and lazy or whatever, but it really doesn't work that way, at least not as far as I understand. And yeah, I'd love to know what you think exactly this is, because if I had to give my own personal opinion, because again, all of that's like the facts and how I think it really leads up to, I think my personal opinion would be like, yeah, someone, Microsoft and, maybe Jeb spoke together, and they're just like, yeah, this would be the sort of thing where some amount of you are going to hate your game, and you don't want to do that. So yeah, that's my thinking. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Like the video if you liked it, share if you really liked it, and subscribe if you're new around here, because I make videos like this one every single day on my channel, and if you subscribe, you'll see them daily on your homepage. Thank you all very much for watching, and goodbye.